Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. Hey, my name is Tom Dutta. I'm your host, and you're live streaming today. We're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So give this show a subscribe, hit the button on your screen there so you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. This will be a pre-taping of an international podcast and a YouTube premiere video, which will come out in the near future. I'm really excited to have a guest today, Dr. Lenny Peters. Now, he's in the green room. I want to just set him up and tell you a little bit about him. He's quite an incredible man. He's the youngest son born in Kerala, India, and he has done some amazing things. He took a college course in finance, and well, he turned it into a medical practice and a real estate empire. This man established a bank for underserved communities that operates in, I believe, 4 states. And through it all, as I read in his book, he battled the prejudice he encountered as a professional man of color with a funny accent, turning every hardship into opportunity and learning. And I was quite excited because when I grew up, I was a funny little accented brown man as well. So, Dr. Peters, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome, Dr. Peters.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was just having some fun with your introduction. I've read that funny accent and how you battle through that. And, it took me right back to my childhood and growing up here from the age of 3 or 4 in Canada. So it's great to have you on the show. Dr. Peters, I found your book and I read it, and I got to tell you, man, I feel like I know you. And there were so many threads in that book. Do you have a physical copy of the book handy there? Well, let's hold it up. I'm going to full screen you, Dr. Peters. Everybody, we're going to be talking a lot about this Barefoot to Benefactor, my life story of faith and courage, Lenny Peters. Thank you, Dr. Peters. I'm going to bring us back again. Well, let's get right into it. I mean, this is all about storytelling. What I really admire is in your story is you grew up in a village in India. And let's start there. Tell us about life in that village in India. I learned a few things about your father and the people who mentored you. Tell us about that point in time.
Yeah, I was born in a small village in southern India, in the state of Kerala, with a small town, small village with no running water or electricity. I was the third child in the family. Our older brother and sister. My mother was raising us, and it was very difficult. Those days, we were living in a small little home on the other side of paddy fields, so we have to walk barefoot, and that's where the name Barefoot comes from. Barefoot Benefactor. You cannot, even if you have shoes, you cannot wear, and we didn't have any. And it was highly risky. There's a lot of snakes on the paddy fields, but we took all the risk, and I was able to go to my pre-med and med school careers at the age of 14. So we packed 2 bags. My father carried one, and I carried the other, walked across the paddy fields to a road where we took a bus to the capital city to start my medical career. And from there, I went on to London, and I never came back to the village up until I was later as an adult.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty
story of very humble beginnings with strong faith and courage.
Yeah, I love it. And everybody, we're talking about Dr. Peters, a book he wrote, Barefoot to Benefactor. And I got to recommend everybody get the book. Now, as a fellow author, Dr. Peters, I'm going to shout out and ask people to get your book, to read it. Author's work gets known by the readers. And so I want you to get the book, read it, but also post a review on Amazon so we can get the word out about this book. Dr. Peters, there's many social issues in the book, and you mentioned a couple things. My brain went on a journey, so I kind of smiled inside about the snake. So I'm just going to bring that back. There's a story in there about how you were playing with your little your pals in the village, and I think you fell into some water and a snake bit you. And so tell us about that moment, because I know you thought you're going to die or something, and there's a lot of blood. Just take us back to that moment.
Yes, so it was pretty dangerous to go out into the pond and you take a swim or get into the water. So all the parents have told children not to go, but as children would do it, when you are asked not to do something, you want to give it a try. So my friends and I went one evening to this pond, and it's several types of snakes there, and I was bitten by one, and everyone around me thought that I was dying and I was going to die. I was bleeding. But I ran home, and my mother looked at it, and she knew it was not a poisonous snake. So I survived. That was the story. Was terrifying incident.
Yeah, so we're starting to learn more about you. I mean, the word courage certainly, and when you describe growing up in the village, what it was like and not having shoes, I mean, most of the world doesn't have that experience, Dr. Peters. So I think it's a blessing that you took us into that part of your life. I want to talk about your upbringing and I'll call it the influencers around you. One of the reasons why I was excited to interview you is, you probably know a bit about me by now, is my grandparents are from India. My mom and dad are from Fiji. And I came to this country, Canada, after being born in England as a young man. But the challenge for me was there was prejudice, and there was challenges here because of the way I looked. I was picked on, and I was looking for mentors in the community. And what's interesting is most of the mentors in the community, the South Asian community, were like my parents. They're traditionalists. And so I really found mentorship from, the non South Asian men in my life. And so I never really knew my heritage. And we talk about your father. You said your mom raised you primarily. Was your dad not home, or just tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, my father worked for British Petroleum in the oil fields in Middle East. So he was gone 11 months out of the year.
I see.
He only comes home for 1 month a year. So he was out in the fields, in the oil wells. So that was his job. So I didn't see him much, but he was a very caring, compassionate man. But he did have problem with alcohol, because in where he worked, there was no other entertainment other than just drink. So
Right.
the British BP, British Petroleum, gave him enough of it. So he had problems with that, and so that was very difficult for me and for him. But my grandfather, my mother's father, was a role model for me, and he was a very compassionate man. With the amounts of money he was able to accumulate, he started a school for children,
Yes.
and free education in the area. So that was, and early on was an example for me. And also we were Christians, and we are less than 5% in India. So right off the bat, we did have difficulties because we were never part of the majority. But also talk about prejudice. And early on, I was troubled by this fact that the British were there and they colonized India. At one point during my research, I found that there were 15,000 Indians to one British soldier. That was the ratio. Yet they were able to conquer the whole continent and occupy this whole area of Indian subcontinent, including Pakistan, Bangladesh, and currently India, for many years. So I wanted to know who they were. So there were two paths one could take. One can become angry at them for a lot of the bad things they have done, or look at what good things they have done. So majority of the Indians are pretty upset with them and do not want to deal with them. I took a different approach. I looked at what good things they have done. They built a railway from north to south, east to west, united about 30 different states, talking different languages and different cultures, and united us into what now called India. Winston Churchill once said, India is no more united than the equator. So we were that different. But the British made us come together as a nation. They gave us the English language. So now I can write a book in it. I can study medicine in English. So I was using the power of forgiveness to say, I think there may be some goodness in them. So I wanted to go to London as early as possible and learn who these people are. So that's why I went to London, and I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dr. Peters. Everybody, that's a teaching moment. We talk about turning what some see as maybe a limiting situation into an opportunity. Dr. Peters, that's one of the things I loved about the book you wrote. Everybody, we're talking about a book called Barefoot to Benefactor. We'll show you how to get that later. But it seems innately in your bones, in your DNA, was this optimism or this resilience. Now I want to go a little deeper about when we grew up as children. I've spent a lot of time studying this as well, that there's many children in the world who sadly live a life of sadness. Some of them mental health issues with depression. Some of them can't see themselves as good enough. And I've learned there's two types of people who they grow up trying to be something they're not. They grow up trying to be something because somebody told them they should be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. I meet a lot of South Asian young people today who are caught where they can't live their lives the way they want to. They can't marry the people they want, and they live in this silence. And we love our parents. We don't, take that away. Our parents did the best with what they had. What's remarkable to me is your story is very unique. Christian, I'm Catholic and follow Christianity myself. So you have a focus on that faith, which isn't, the faith of your home. You talk about your grandfather. I read something in the book, which I loved, about how he would make you dress up to resemble very, very successful people. And then we have last thing I want to share with you is that the thread of your father. My father was a good man. He passed away in 2018. However, he was a bad alcoholic. He was in the army and started drinking to the extreme, and our home was fairly violent. And he left home when I was 12 and never saw him again till just later in life. And as I go into the South Asian culture and meet people, there seems to be this thread of sometimes of men not treating women the way they should with the respect, alcoholism, this quiet thing that happens in the home. So I'm an advocate for fighting against that. And that's why your book was so inspiring to me, because you were able to find this positivity and find the goodness in your heart to be gentle and have self-control. So who is your main influencer to do what you did, going from London to the United States, becoming a doctor, a real estate empire builder? Was it your father or your grandfather?
My grandfather more so. My father was not a good role model. I had to learn what not to do from my father. But which was fine. But I love him. But if there was an influence, it was my grandfather. But beyond that, I think, Tom, I believe my guidance comes from the universe.
Yes.
So it's not one person, it's the constant flow of energy that takes me through 4 continents, able to live and work in 4 of the 5 inhabitable continents and meet people. And that's a constant guidance from the universe. So that's what I was able to graduate from medical school very early. I didn't know anyone in London, absolutely none. But by luck, I heard about this man through a distant friend of mine, his father. This man works, Mr. Joseph works in the British Rail as a ticket collector. He has no money. But for some reason, he said, I will sponsor you. I needed a sponsor. And he sponsored me and sent me 100 British pounds in cash. So get there. I arrive in Heathrow Airport. I didn't know anyone. He comes with a blanket and he says, today we are going to the poor side of London. So he has one room. That's all he has. One bed. And he has a stove on the floor. So he cooks chicken and a little rice for us. And he said, Lenny, you sleep on the bed tonight. I'll sleep on the floor. So that was my first day in London. But I worked my way up. I was able to get credentialed, get my license pretty quickly within 2 weeks. Then my focus was still to find out who the British people were. So I worked my way up. And as you say, there are, the universe sends people to guide you. And there was this man in London, and I will tell about similar stories in every continent. Sir Grey, he's in the royal family. He has 3 hospitals. He liked me, and for no good reason. I stayed in London. I became his number 2 man in the 3 hospitals. And I have 2 degrees, postgraduate degrees from London, member of the Royal College of Physicians. So he helped me get to a very high level in 4.5 years. And I became his number 2 person. And in return for all the work I do for him, I have about 50 young doctors under me at that time. And he would invite me to his palace outside London and play croquet and have dinner with So when I left, this is the story. The man who was sleeping in 1 bedroom on day 1, when I left London, I was playing croquet and having dinner with the royalty. That was an amazing experience. Yes.
That is an amazing experience, and everybody with the book Barefoot to Benefactor, there's so many funny little stories in there. This is one of them. I remember when you got to London, there's a story about that you're portraying the difference between driving in India and London. And I think you said in India, you just get in the car and go. And of course, London, there's all these rules and things. I just want to read something that I found about you when I researched you. I'm just going to read this here. Worked his way into medical school, propelled himself to London, settled in North Carolina as an accomplished physician. Not satisfied with providing standard medical care, Lenny became a world-class researcher and founded the Bethany Medical Center, a revolutionary network that treats anyone who walks through its doors with the best that medicine can offer. So it seems to me in reading your book, going from the village and defying, I guess, all the adversity and the odds against you, you continue to have this resilience, Dr. Peters. And I love what you said, everybody, it's a teaching moment that the universe sends people. I believe in that. I believe through my faith as well, that if you just give the worry to God and you just open your heart, the universe will reward you. One thing I want to honor you with is you're not just courage. I wrote a review for your book and I said it's beyond faith and courage, in that you had a vision. It seems you had a vision, and maybe you can tell us a bit more about that, where that vision came from. But sometimes when there was things in the way of your vision, you seem to be able to push through, sometimes even against your own cultural beliefs. As you said, you were raised a Christian. I read a bit about your marriage, and there's this arranged marriages in the culture as well. Seems that you did whatever you needed to do to get to that vision. And the purposeful work you're doing, what I see is helping people. In fact, one last thing I want to say, then I'll give it back to you. I wrote this down on my paper. He never forgot his roots and shares his abundance through his foundation back to India. I think that's just amazing. I love you and your story just for that, Dr. Peters. So talk a bit about that. I mean, for all of those growing up following you, the South Asians that are coming up to run the world, stepping up despite barriers in our own culture. Just tell us about how you navigated through that.
Yeah. So my mentor, Sir Grey, finally said, you've done everything you can in London. I think you need to go to Australia or to United States. I'll help you. So he made phone calls. He was a big benefactor as well. So I was accepted to University of Pittsburgh to come learn liver transplant. But from there, I came to North Carolina to do research in gastroenterology and do my fellowship. But that's where I really found the prejudice of the South, which was 30 years ago. It was very difficult. But I decided I was not going to leave. I could have gone to Florida with my friends, or to San Diego, where other friends. But I said, no, I'm going to stay right here and see how I can change this. attitudes. So that was my purpose. Again, during all of these difficult times, there are angels around us. They do not have wings. We just have to look for them. So this man, Dr. Childs, N. Hampton Childs, couldn't be any more Southern than him. He's one of the most Southern gentlemen. He has no reason to like me. He has one of the best practices in the area. He came from Mayo Clinic, 25-year-old practice. I went to meet him. I said, I would like to buy your practice. And he said, come and see me. So he was a little shocked when he saw me. He didn't realize that he was going to see an Indian man with a name Lenny Peters. But he let me sit down and I told him my story. And he said, if I sell this practice, Lenny, I would only sell it to you. Such a gentleman. In 2 weeks, he signed the agreement. Nothing much, which is in a piece of paper. And he sold the practice to me. And he said, I'll work for you for 2 years. You're the boss on day one. So that was a major breakthrough. I had one of the best practices to start with. I was not going to work for anyone, anytime. That was my principle. So he helped me, and I built the practice from there. There was a lot of prejudices and difficult times. But I decided to use the power of forgiveness again to stay here and build. Those days, everyone wanted to be in private practice and make as much money as possible. I decided I want to have a large independent provider of healthcare. Everyone laughed at me, but I stayed focused. And today, we are the largest independent single owner provider of healthcare in the state.
That's amazing.
We are also the largest minority-owned business of any type in the state. And Michael Jordan is number 2. So
we want to just make sure we capture that important fact. That's phenomenal, Dr. Peters. Congratulations on that success. Would it be fair to say that everything that drives all of this is about helping other people?
Absolutely. That's none of those things. I started 2 commercial banks during this whole process.
Yeah.
I'm the founder and the senior most director, chairman of the loan committee of a bank now. It's in four states. But beyond all of that, none of that was important. The most important things was the 4 children that I raised, all highly educated. 2 daughters now work for me. One daughter runs 2 companies. The other daughter runs 5 companies. So we're setting up for the next 35 years. Now, beyond that, my foundation is what I spend a lot of time. It's the Lenny Peters Foundation. It's on YouTube as well as Google, lennypetersfoundation.org. And we have orphanages and cancer patients, 8 centers around the world. 6 of them are in India, in different parts, North India, South India, and 2 of them are in South Africa. So
that's amazing. I've been to the website, everybody. We'll put it in the show notes to check out that foundation. And I love what that stands for, Dr. Peters. I want to just talk about family for a minute. I very much admire that your children are involved in the business, and you're such a good family man. Also about faith. So I'm assuming that your family is a faith-based family. I want to say that my father he passed away in January 2018 unexpectedly from a heart attack. I love my dad. My dad and I were estranged for most of my life because he left home. But I learned just over a cup of coffee with my dad, and then he passed 3 months later, so I never got to see him again. But one thing I learned was how his childhood was. And, alcoholism, I read a bit about that in your book, but my dad was a good man. I call him a hero today. And the things he taught me really drove me to be the man I am. I just couldn't see that back then because of what was happening, the challenges he had. I go into family. I have 2 brothers. And so I believe it's a faith-based man, that how we nurture and love our children next to our belief in God is very important. And sometimes I come across, not just in the South Asian community, but I come across family enterprise business where there's a lot of strife and there's a lot of pressure for the children to step up and step into that world. It seems to me that you've got a good family who they're all involved and they support each other. How do you keep business separate from the love and the family sometimes?
we do not keep it separate. My daughter says, for Dad, work is his life.
Yeah.
And his life is his love. And his love is to help people. So in the same day, same hour, I'm doing all of this. I do not separate them.
I love it.
So this is how we have worked together. When we work, we talk about how we help others. My daughter the other day made a speech where I was receiving an award, the Love of Family Award, one of the highest awards for someone who helps other people in the area. And they asked her to speak, and she said, the first day I sat with Dad to do our business plan. She has an MBA from the Wharton School of Business and also undergraduate from Wharton. So she said, this is what the budget looks like. And my dad said, yes, where do you calculate how much we give? We have to do that first.
That's fantastic. Congratulations on the award, Dr. Peters. That's amazing. Just another list of your accomplishments. Everyone, Dr. Peters is a very humble man. You can see that. There's much more to you. I read somewhere that you were invited to the White House several times in the United States. You're very well known for your philanthropy and all the work you've done. I think one thing that I admire about you is people, they say you're remembered for what you do in private, not in public. And so what you do in private, your values, what we hear from you about love and faith and helping other people, that's just incredible. I want to talk about faith for a moment. Just want to share with you that every Sunday, my wife and I do an online church because of COVID. And we were yesterday, and I make notes. I have my little notebook here. And I just happened to write down where our pastor is taking us through the nine elements he calls of joy and happiness. And yesterday we talked about number 8 and 9, gentleness and self-control. And that, joy, we know where joy is found. But gentleness and self-control, I find in business, especially with high pressure world we're in, especially looking also in the community, the South Asian community, it's very hard sometimes to focus on other people and be gentle and kind and have self-control. I believe that the best leaders can be vulnerable and have these attributes. I've worked with many people. I'm a CEO. I've worked at the top of my career, and it's not easy in life being gentle and being kind and having self-control. Tell us about how your faith has driven you to be gentle, have self-control in everything that you do.
Yeah, I wrote a quote from Mahatma Gandhi in my book. It's about, if you are a Hindu, you try to be a better Hindu. If you are a Muslim, you try to be a better Muslim. If you are a Christian, you try to be a better Christian. So being a Christian, I have no issues with any other religion. I'm at peace with all of that.
Yeah.
So, but I can only talk about my faith. So sometimes when I talk about Christianity, I'm pretty passionate about it. And I don't want to come across as I am not respecting any other religion. I do. So long as we have a faith, that is all that matters. Even if we don't have a faith, just be focused on something that you value. So that's how I look at faith. And for me, it's Christianity. I researched a lot about Christianity. I was born and raised a Catholic like you, Tom. And part of the reason I wrote this book was one of the highest bishops in India is the number one. He told me, he's a very older man, he said, Lenny, I want you to write all of this because it cannot be lost without being written, the history of Christianity in India. And he said, I cannot, I'm too old. So I write about all of that because it comes AD 20 by St. Thomas to India. And it's very old faith. And I can take that through several hundreds of years. But it has become, one has to be very pure in one's thoughts and beliefs and faith in order to remain a Christian and a strong Christian in India. Because it's easy to go away from that faith because everything surrounding you is not encouraging you to have that faith.
Yeah.
My mother was a big part of that. And she was a very strong Christian, and she raised me that way. When she passed away, she gave me her rosary that I pray with.
She sounds like a beautiful lady. What was her name? Her first name?
Philomena. Philomena
Philom. Yeah.
Lopez Peters.
Oh, that's beautiful, Dr. Peter. We're going to honor her in the show for sure. We'll find a way to do that. That's what part of the story that's remarkable to me because I understand Christianity very well. I wanted just to share with you that I grew up. My dad was a Hindu. My mom baptized me Catholic. We had a picture of Jesus on the wall in our house coming up the landing, and I think you and I have some common thread because of our father's addictions. But Dr. Peters, there was a time in my life that I denied my faith. I was angry. I would shake my head at that picture because of what was going on in my home. And if you research a little bit about my life lately, 3 years ago, I was doing the ride for cancer on my bike, 200 kilometers. And the first night I fell in a bathtub, cracked the hole in the tub and blacked out and sustained a brain injury. And 3 years later now, I'm still working through recovery, some double vision and other issues. That's not the biggest part of what I'm trying to say here, but I went from being a chief executive to a night stalker in Costco for 2 years, working till midnight, lifting heavy boxes. My life stopped. I didn't know if I would have a future. A year at a restaurant waiting tables for $16 an hour. And it was through all of that that I said, God, why did you strip me? My career and everything was going so well. And I believe that I had to be stripped to learn something, that I fast tracked to the top of my game so fast. I never spent a lot of time on the ground floor with just average people. But here's the last part of the story. My wife bought me a cross. I said, I want you to buy me a cross. And I would wear it in my car, Dr. Peters, driving to Costco. And I didn't know how to speak to God. I was just like dummies for faith for me. And I would say, God, look, this is going to be really hard. I've lost 40 pounds in 3 months from the physicality. I said, I will stay here until you give me a sign. You tell me what to do next. And it was that part of my journey, Dr. Peters, I'll just finish with this, that like you said, which is so brilliant, when I finally found that there was something I could turn to believe in, to have faith in, something that was always there that I denied, it helped me through that. It helped me through that in such a big way. And today I am, my faith comes dead center. It's a strategy. It's part of everything I do. So thank you for writing that in the book, because I think it's a confusing part of life. We live in a world that is not the easiest world to be part of. And I think faith is a tool. It's something that can help everybody. I want to have some fun with you now and surprise you, Dr. Peters. This book, hold up your book again. Let's full screen it. All right, everybody, I'm just going to put that. There it is, Barefoot to Benefactor. It's an amazing book. I've certainly read it myself. Thank you, Dr. Peters. So now we're going to surprise you. And I've read it. And everybody, I want you to read the book and write a review, post it on Amazon. So you get to see your first international Canadian review. There it is. So I've given you a great review, 5-star book review. I won't read all the words, but it's being posted on Amazon October 23rd. And so congratulations, Dr. Peters, for amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In fact, I want you just to tell us why you wrote this book. I know there's so many threads of your story in it, but what was the reason you all of a sudden decided to do that?
I will. I also want to point out that 100% of the proceeds of this book goes to cancer patients and orphan children.
Fantastic.
So it's an expensive process to write a book of this caliber, but I paid for all of that. But all of this goes to cancer patients, and so if anyone buys a book, they can feel good about the fact that it's going to help someone.
I love it. That's perfect. I bought it, so I'm glad to have helped.
So I put it right on the front of the book. So I just wanted everyone to know this is a piece of my work that would help others.
Thank you.
Why did I write the book? There's several factors. One is that I wanted to tell people like myself, immigrants, who give up their culture and come to another country, learn a new culture, try to build something. I wanted them to know it's not where we come from, it's where we're going that matters. There is no one I have met that can change yesterday. There is no one I know can accurately predict tomorrow. So what do we have today? Let's live it. So I wanted to put that message in front of you. If you believe in that, don't spend time on what some of the bad things that happened yesterday, 5 years ago, 100 years ago. Yes, the British people came and killed us and took our money and did a lot of bad things to our women. Fine. Okay. Is there anything going to change if I keep talking about it today? So this is very important. That's why I wanted to write part of that. Number two is that in every adverse situation, in most prejudiced communities, there's always good people. We just have to open our hearts and soul and look for them, and they will lift you up. That's phenomenal. That's incredibly difficult for many people to see, and I've lived it, and I wanted to share that story with people. Please look. They're everywhere. They're angels without wings.
I love it. Angels without wings. Everybody, this is a teaching moment, that last couple of minutes. I can see now why you're so inspirational and seen that way. I could just watch that piece you just said over and over again. I want to just say to you that I totally believe in what you said, Dr. Peters. I think it's one of the reasons why I read your book twice. And I have a PDF reader because of my vision. So I listened to it going to sleep the other night. And there's something about the stories in it. And I learned a long time ago that we have the ability to choose between a positive and negative thought. And we're the only species, unlike plants and animals, can't do this. I believe we can attach a different meaning to a thought. So the death of my father, or what my father was like, I can attach a good meaning to it. Or the British killed us, can attach a good meaning to it. You're one of the few people I've met, and with your permission, I'd like to call you my mentor. If you had come along in my life 30, 40 years ago, it would have been a blessing. I'm so happy to have met you. But everybody, find the good in everything, and follow this, man, especially if you're an immigrant and you're struggling to fit in. I want to just do one more thing here and put it up on the screen one more time. We've just honored Dr. Peters with an amazing 5-star review, and let's celebrate that. There it is, Dr. Peters. A little bit of fireworks for you.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, Dr. Peters, before I honor you with a few words, before I wrap this up, can you please tell us where people can get a hold of your book or learn more about everything you're doing?
Yeah, 2 places. One, at Amazon. Look for Barefoot to Benefactor, and it's available on Amazon. Also, you please look at Lenny Peters, Lenny Peters Foundation.org. And that's on Google, and you will go to our website, see a lot of things we do. And then on YouTube, we have our own channel, Lenny Peters Foundation. So there we post all the videos of all the orphanages and cancer patients, things that we do around the world. At least just to be part of it. We have not, taken money from fundraising events. God has blessed us, and so we are supporting it ourselves. But anyone would like to contribute or help. I had a call yesterday from a location in Colombia, South America, to start something. So I'm praying about it. I'm thinking about it.
It's amazing.
So that's 2 locations, the foundation website and the Amazon.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Peters. I'm glad I met you. There probably will be a moment for me to talk to you about my visions. When I ask you, you're living in, is it North Carolina? Is that where your home is?
Yes, my main home is in North Carolina, High Point. High Point is the furniture capital of the world. So that's where I live. My main home. I also have a home in Miami and in Manhattan.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. I've been there. My wife had some family wedding we went to. I love it. Is your church in your community? Is it close to where your home is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I want to just do one more thing. I want to ask you one more question before I wrap this up, Dr. Peters. And there's a Canadian study done, and I use this when I teach. And the study was that they asked 90-year-olds what were your top 3 regrets. And when all the answers came in, not in any order of importance, they were we didn't take enough risk, we didn't reflect enough, we didn't create a big enough contribution or legacy. So when this is all over, and you go on to the the unlimited world ahead, what would you like this world to look like when you're done with your work?
I would like people to work as hard as they can and use God-given abilities, but not be just focused on how much wealth one can create or accumulate, because we cannot take anything with us. 4,000 years ago, Egyptian kings tried that. Take all the gold and silver and jewelry with them. 4,000 years later, we opened the caskets, they're still there. So let's do some good with it. Let's help others. There are people around the world, there are God's people, they have no other sources of self-help. So that's our job, and we should do that. And that's how I like to see this world move forward. Instead of trying to find how we can separate each other and have so many different, so contrasting views, what is that common thread that we can find? I think things are not as good as I'd like to see it, but if we can come together to find common cause, that would be great.
Thank you. That's a teaching moment, everybody. Go back and just listen to that part. That's such an amazing, I call it a worldview, Dr. Peters, that you have. You've certainly taught us a lot today. I want to read you one more quote from my church this yesterday. I wrote this down. The ancient world measured man as self-mastery. In other words, when men can master themselves, when they can master their ability to be kind and gentle and give and love, that's really what it's all about. In today's world, unfortunately, we're measured more by material things and what we accomplish. So what a great time we spend with you. Now I get to honor you, Dr. Peters, before we wrap this up. So I'm going to full screen Tom for a minute. You might say, why is he doing that? You'll soon find out. There's a picture behind me on the screen there. Let me explain what that is. It kind of looks like a guy I know, except for the haircut. When I started this show, Dr. Peters, I wanted an award. And the award, because I was building a tribe, I remember saying this will be a platform where I bring people from all over the world. They'll just find me because my faith people are guided. I don't go looking for them. But these people will be different. They will have a deep purpose where they overcome something, some adversity, and they have a purpose to do something with it. They take action. They create life that they deserve and desire, and they bless other people. That's what drives them. This is a challenge coin, Dr. Peters, and it was created in World War II. Challenge coins today are used by first responders or people around the world to commit community. My father was in Alcoholics Anonymous for 22 years before he passed. They have their own coin. The front of it is the art of the show. It's hand painted and crafted in the United States. And the back of it is actually the hero's journey narrative, which is Joseph Campbell's work about how we all go into the unknown and seek to find the truth. We come back and we become shamans or a guide. So we're awarding you today, and you will be, there's less than 200 of these in circulation in 17 countries. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Tribe.
Wow. Thank you so much. I want to give this last piece of I'm sharing my experience. I am not teaching or advising people. I'm sharing my experience. So to the children that you talked about earlier, the different points they found out, I wanted to give this last piece is that I said the last sentence in my book, never give up. There is always a back door.
I love it. Never give up. There's always a back door, everybody. What a great way to end this interview. Dr. Peters, thank you so much. And I'll definitely call you to come back again and talk about your wisdom.
Tom, thank you so much for having. We have so much in common. I admire you. I think I would love for you to be my mentor.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're now connected as Quiet Warriors for Life. That's a promise. And I love you too, Dr. Peters, for your story. And something tells me we'll be collaborating in some way, if not just by being connected in our faith. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca